just hold on for a second. On 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th of June 2024, Poetry International Festival is happening in Rotterdam. So come check out the acts. There's going to be a diverse array of voices, including my performance. My name's Joey. I'm going to be the ambassador for Poetry International Festival this year, and I really hope to see you there. There's going to be something that you love. Whether you've been to one of these events, poetry, spoken word, whether you've never been before, this is a great chance to come check it out. See you there. My name is Joey. I am a spoken word artist. I'm a copywriter and an occasional dancer. With my work, specifically my spoken word, I like to think that I build bridges. So I'm looking to connect things between people, ideas, cultures, and integrate them within the themes of freedom, cultural identity. I think it's important to speak with your own voice, and your own voice comes from your story. And once you've sort of figured out a little bit about what your story is, you kind of know who you are, and then that's the art of putting everything that you know about yourself into your work. And so that's what I try to do. With spoken word, the way that I write, at least, is I put my pen to paper and I already start writing my piece with a certain cadence in mind. There's a rhythm to it, there's a flow. And I enjoy it because it means that I'm done quite quickly, which is very convenient. But more than that, it's already like the story lives and it breathes and it has a character. So I don't go back too much to focus on that rhythm. And this is the way that I've always written. It's very intuitive to me. But with this project that I am very proud of in 2022, it was in collaboration with this phenomenal spoken word artist, Zaire Krieger. We created this piece that was to be published on the very first spoken word album of the Netherlands, hosted by Sprakeloos. And our piece was done relatively quickly. We done it in, I think, a day or so. And then music had to come on top of it. And I think this is what I thought was super, super challenging, because as somebody who intuitively writes, who already has a certain rhythm and cadence, it's almost like I know exactly where the beats should go, which sound should go where, and then suddenly this track comes on top of it. So it almost felt like it took longer for the music to adjust to the way that we had created our piece than it was us creating this piece. Still, extremely proud of this project, really happy that it aired. But yeah, that was pretty challenging to work with music. And in general, with my projects, like whenever I've improvised with music, it's either gone okay or terribly wrong. And that's because of my own stubbornness, right? That's because I already had this idea of what it should be, and it's not as free, it's not as flowy as maybe somebody who, you know, puts words to paper is. So yeah. It's a blessing and a curse in a way. I don't know whether I can speak for the entire cultural scene of the Netherlands, but I can speak for the city that I live in, the city that I love, which is Rotterdam. From what I've experienced in the 10 plus years that I've lived here is how many different voices there are, how much talent lies in the city, and how much expression is present here. So whenever I go to an event here, I'm surprised. Like, it's always something new, it's always something that, you know, I'd never really heard of before. It's a different perspective, and I really love that about this city in particular. I think that there isn't always a place for these voices, for these stories to be showcased. There are a couple of places that are doing it really well, a couple of platforms like Unwanted Words, Spaces, Sprakeloos, now Poetry International, but there aren't enough yet, I think. There isn't as much of a search for things that are different, and I enjoy this. This is what I always look for in my work, and I feel as though with the talent that we have in the city, and perhaps in the Netherlands as well, I feel like it's necessary to showcase these voices. It's necessary to showcase these stories, because how boring is it to listen to the same story over and over and over again? I think that inclusivity lies very closely related to curiosity. You need to be curious if you want to include, because there's always going to be something different. There's always going to be a new perspective, a different voice, a different story. So staying open and curious to like truly intrinsically wanting to understand and wanting to look for that different story to add to your collection of beautiful stories that already exist. I think too often we approach inclusivity as like as this box to tick, or this like, oh, if I don't do it, I'm gonna get in trouble with the world, or I'm gonna get cancelled, or like I have to be inclusive because that's what you have to do nowadays. Like, no, inclusivity is, I want to know more about this. I'm curious about the world because I am always trying to learn more about myself, and how can I learn more about myself without knowing more about you, or hearing a different story. So it starts with yourself, and it starts with figuring out, why am I so hell-bent on hearing one thing? Like, why do I always want to gravitate to it? Am I scared because I don't feel like I see myself represented in all those other stories? Am I not interested in it because it's not my experience? Like, why don't I feel the need to explore? If you want to see something original, if you want to see something genuine, if you want to see something authentic, come to a performance.